Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Happy Memorial Day. Welcome to the live stream. Today, I'm going to be talking about histamines. And so this topic is very complicated, which is probably why I didn't do a lot of work on it for a long time, even though I really knew, like, all the signs were really there that I had histamine intolerance. I mean, they were there for me since I was a little kid. They were definitely there for my daughter for years and years and years. It was just like when you go on to Google or YouTube or anywhere and you start researching histamines, it can be really confusing and very overwhelming because it mimics a lot of other things. So I'm going to talk about in the live stream today, and you guys, as you're coming on, feel free to drop in the comments where you're watching from. And I will, hello, Southeast Georgia. I will also just try to talk a little bit about my experience and answer questions. So with everything on this channel, I always want to just, even though you guys know this already, like, you know, I'm just a regular girl, but I'm not an expert, like a doctor or, registered dietitian, anything like that, giving you guys advice, telling you what to do, what to eat, any of that. I'm just basically with this channel, I'm just telling you guys my experience, what I've gone through with me, with my daughter. She's something that I have talked about a bit. We did a whole live stream on her last week and her experience with keto. So I'm just, telling you guys my experience with histamines. Oh, wow. A bunch of comments just came in. So we got North Pole, Alaska. Wow. Toronto, Vermont, Indiana, California, Finland. So cool. Hi, Vic. Hello, Vermont and Indiana. Cool. Thank you guys for commenting and let me know where you're watching from. And I think a lot of people are watching this in Germany because maybe they have histamine issues or they're suspecting that they have histamine issues. So that's what I want to talk about, and how I kind of finally knew that I had histamine, that my daughter had histamine issues, because with her, and I talked about this on the live stream last week, it has significantly been difficult for us to deal with. Hello, Iowa, Massachusetts, Scotland. It's been something that has been really difficult for us, significantly affected our quality of life. So let me talk about her first. And then I'll jump into me and my histamine issues and some different ways that I have tested for it here at home without using a doctor. So let me talk about that. So for my daughter, and I mentioned this on the live stream I did last week, she's had chronic ear infections ever since she was little itty bitty. I mean, since she was about 2 years old, we had her first set of ear tubes and just had to, every couple years get a new set of tubes, but get these ear infections. As she got older, it seemed to get worse and worse and worse. She, and the thing that had always been a problem for her was sleep, which I never had any idea that sleep was an indicator of an issue with histamines, like no idea. But it's a big, big problem with people with histamine intolerance, that they can't sleep, because we tried everything to get this child to sleep through the night and, struggled with that up until just about a month ago when we started. Hello, Laura. Hello, everybody coming in, South Alabama, Oregon, Hungary. So lots of things that we tried for her, several surgeries. We would put her on antihistamine medication, Claritin, constantly, which now I know antihistamine medication actually makes this problem worse. Like, I had no idea. It destroys your body's ability to create that enzyme DAO, which DAO, I'm going to talk more about that and how we've been able to kind of supplement that and allow that to help us. But a lot of stuff is I actually printed out some stuff that we were using for her is going to destroy your body's ability to make DAO. So there's two things involved with histamines here. Is your body's ability to make DAO, which is made in your small intestine, right? Because DAO actually helps you metabolize the histamine. Histamines are not bad also. They're in a lot of stuff. They're not bad, but a lot of us have like a histamine bucket. Well, all of us have a histamine bucket. So it's our body's ability to metabolize those out. So if you have low DAO, if you have mast cell activation, which I'm not even going to talk about that because they're very complicated topics, and certain medications are going to destroy your DAO. There's another thing in your body called HMNT, which I wrote that down because I didn't just know it. It also breaks down histamine in your nervous system. So those things are vital. And I'm going to talk about in this video also some things you can do to increase your DAO, to support your liver. Liver is very, very important in this process. So, okay, let's talk about some things that I was giving my daughter and taking myself that I didn't know was impairing her body's ability to make DAO. So antibiotics were a big one because she'd get the ear infections. We had to treat them, and every time it'd get worse. And these are just medications. I'll talk about foods and drinks and stuff later on because a lot of stuff that I thought I was giving her and taking myself was reducing my body's ability to handle histamine and creating more reactions. So a lot of stuff that's touted as like a superfood, like fermented foods and kombucha and all that stuff is delicious. Yeah, someone says I've been diagnosed with mast cell activation syndrome. Yeah, that's a complicated one. That's a rabbit hole. But I think if you do have that, you know, these things that I'm going to give you guys, the different enzymes you can take and different things foods you can eat to support yourself, your liver, your body's ability to make that enzyme. I think that can help even if you do have mast cell, because I'm not convinced that my daughter doesn't also have mast cell activation after everything that we've been through. But some other stuff, we weren't giving these to my daughter, but they can also wreak havoc on your body's ability to metabolize those histamines. So GI drugs, pain medications, muscle relaxants, diuretics, antipsychotics, antidepressants, which I was on antidepressants for like 20 years. I was also on anti-anxiety medications. Yeah, someone says, this is a big one here. Exposure to mold is a huge histamine player too. If your house has had any water damage, look into this as a possibility. And we actually moved out of our house about 2 years ago because we had water damage and mold. We had a big mold remediation, and you know, and I was like, that's it. This is going to be it, to help her stop getting these ear infections every year. Because when I say ear infection, she would start right about April, get an ear infection, and we would go through November. No kidding. I mean, and they would be chronic. Last year we had like three visits to an infectious disease doctor. We had, you know, 2 surgeries. We just tried to do everything medically that we could for her. And it's not until this year that I really buckled down with her on keto, and now also some things to support her body with these different enzymes. You know, that's been the key for us. So that's why I want to do this video. I'm like really motivated to do this video because it's like, this is such a confusing and broad topic and I'm just like a layperson here. I'm just like a mom and just doing my thing, mom, yoga teacher, whatever. So I'm hoping that some of the stuff I'm telling you guys can help you in some way. And I did put 2 videos below this video, one by Dr. Jockers. He does an amazing job of really explaining this in more scientific terms with graphs and illustrations. Hello, Texas. Yes, and so that's a good one. And then Dr. Becky Campbell. Now she was going to come on my interview. We were going to interview her like this week. She's got 3 kids at home, and so this whole quarantine situation's got her. So that she just rescheduled with me to go on June 15th. So I put a video of hers under this video too, because histamines are a big passion of hers. Hello, Falcon, Colorado. Yes, B is having some great stuff here in the comments, and mold remediation can also make mold. Yeah, it can make the mold worse. So that's why we moved out for a while. It's like hard to know what to do in those situations. I live in Georgia. It's rainy, it's hot, it's humid. We all have mold here in our homes. And so we installed something in our HVAC to kind of fight those mold. Yeah, and I agree that mold is a bigger issue than people realize. Yeah, I totally agree, because mold is a huge problem. So always check and see if you've got mold in your house. Let's see what Vic says. I can't do fermented foods. That's when I heard about histamine issues, but I still have no clue, or last apartment was infested with mold. Yeah. I don't do fermented foods either. I used to give my daughter kombucha all the time because I heard it was good for gut health. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that was probably making all of her histamine issues worse and worse and worse and worse. All right, let's talk about some just basic stuff that I'm doing right now for my daughter and I. Oh, this is a good question. This is a great question. What lab test could show issues with histamine? Thank you so much for that super chat. I super, super, super appreciate that. So it's complicated. Now, Dr. Jockers, in his video that I posted underneath this video, he goes in depth for an actual blood histamine test that you can get from your doctor that you can ask for. It'll measure your levels of histamine in the blood. It'll measure your DAO levels. Now, I know a lot of us aren't really going out and thank you so much for that super chat question. I know a lot of us aren't really going out to the doctor right now just because of this whole crazy situation going on. So some stuff that you can test for at home, your vitamin B levels. A lot of time you're deficient in vitamin B, and so your body having methylation issues, you're not able to methylate out those histamines, so the vitamin B. Another one you could do is a celiac test, and I linked a few of these below this video for Let's Get Checked. They're one of my sponsors. So you can get sorry, my dog and my daughter both seem to be hell-bent on being in the video today. I don't know if you heard Alexis yelling a little bit ago, but now my dog is on board. But testing celiac, a lot of times people test positive for celiac, and it's actually histamine. So that's a good one you can do at home. I listed a few of those underneath here. Let's see, can fermented cod liver oil be a problem? I think so, yes. And I think a lot of cod liver oil is also can cause problems for people. My friend, Dr. Rimka, actually just did a video recently. You can go on her channel. She talked about kind of the dangers of cod liver, how it's not, it's rancid a lot of the time and can cause more harm than good. So when you're choosing your cod liver oil, just make sure you get it from a good source. So let me talk a little bit about what we've done here for my daughter and then also for myself. And for me, histamine, it has been a bit more tricky, but I, as a kid, had eczema, like super, super, super bad eczema. It would go on my wrist, on the backs of my arms, on the backs of my legs, and it would come at different times of the year. So I typically struggle more with histamine, and I did with eczema in the spring and the fall, because you've got your external histamine also outdoors. We think about taking an antihistamine when, stuff is blooming outside, and that can make things worse. So I have to be even more cautious in the spring and the fall because I tend to get more eczema. I tend to just react more. That's because we have that histamine bucket in the body. And like B was saying with the mold, that's an external factor that's difficult for to control a lot of the time, but those foods can also make the histamine bucket fill up. So for me, it's always been tricky because I'm dairy free now. I've been dairy free for a while. I think like 6 months or so, maybe not quite 6 months, but pretty much dairy free for most of this year, and we're almost in June. The reason why I went dairy free is I had some cheese and had eczema all over my wrist. It just popped back up. And so I have to be super, super careful because your histamine bucket gets full. So what would trick me about the cheese, is that I'd have a little bit and I'd be okay. And then I'd have a little bit more and I'd be okay. But at some point, if I had it every single day, boom, I'd have a big reaction. And I think that was because it was a histamine issue. And there's certain amounts of foods that you can get away with. And then all of a sudden, boom, you can't get away with it anymore. And you have a big reaction. So for me, I've had to just kind of test, and a good way to test your histamine reaction at home. Another test you can use is either using a keto mojo to like test your blood glucose after you eat, or I love a continuous glucose monitor. I've worked with NutriSense. I have a link below this video to get a continuous glucose monitor because, and I would test foods out. So every time I would have butter can be high histamine. My blood glucose would go up by 20 points. So this is a good question here. How do you know that it's a histamine symptom or just a bad reaction to some food? Yeah, and that's the confusing thing about histamine. So there are specific symptoms that pair in with histamine, typically a headache. Now, when I tried to reintroduce butter, the first thing I noticed was a headache. And your blood glucose going up, like I just said. So having the continuous glucose monitor that I used with NutriSense, I would notice if I ate butter, my blood glucose would go up. If I getting really tired after I would eat something, that's also histamine. Having like energy crashes, a lot of time, that's histamine. Once I took out butter, that kind of went away. Heart palpitations, anxiety. Now I had that with avocado, which was bizarre because I used to just love avocado, eat it all the time. But, you know, like I said, I think I've said this before, I think we become more and more sensitive once we do carnivore. I think that we were probably having tons of reactions because when I look back on reactions I was having before I went carnivore, I would eat and get a runny nose. I would eat and my face would flush certain foods, or I'd feel like hot. But avocados started giving me, once I eliminated them for a really long time and tried to add them back in, I immediately noticed anxiety and heart palpitations. That's a classic histamine response. Yeah, and this is exactly what I was just saying. Measuring, another simple test is measuring heart rate after eating something. If it goes up, then likely it's a histamine reaction. Thank you, B, for coming on today. You're helping me out so much with this chat because yeah, that's another thing to do. And you can actually just put the food in your mouth. You don't even have to eat it and do that pulse test. Let's see. How about eggs? Yeah, it's typically the egg whites that are going to cause you to have a reaction. All right, I'm trying to answer questions, read and talk here, but I want to talk about some support, some stuff that we can do to help your body handle those histamines a little bit more. So supporting your liver is going to be very important because you need your liver to work well for several functions of the body, but metabolizing histamines is a big one. So to support liver, and in the 2 videos that I put up underneath the video, now those doctors recommended supplements and they're kind of like their supplements, their brands, but what I use, I eat liver. So I just eat liver because it's going to give you your zinc, your copper, your selenium. So sometimes low copper can also cause your body to not be able to produce the DAO. I don't really recommend supplementing with copper. It can be dangerous. You want to be real careful with that. It is a heavy metal. So I don't recommend necessarily supplementing with copper. And you guys, I'm not a doctor or an expert on any of this stuff, but I just eat liver. For my daughter, I give her the Ancestral Supplements liver capsules. And as she gets 6 a day, which is equal to 1 ounce of liver, I eat about 1 ounce of liver per day. I eat it raw. And it seems to work really well. It's also a really good source of vitamin C. Vitamin C is something for people that are having trouble, metabolizing those histamines that they need to supplement with. So the liver is going to kill a lot of birds with one stone. The selenium, the vitamin C, the copper, the zinc. Zinc is very, very important. All those things. Let's see. I'm noticing that symptoms can indicate either oxalates or histamines, and I'm not sure which is which. Is there any way to figure out the difference? I mean, oxalates are, spinach is a high histamine food, and it's also a high oxalate food. But I think they're different. Oxalates kind of build up in your body over time. Most people don't have an immediate reaction to oxalates. Oxalates build up over time and cause a lot of joint pain. They can cause gout. They can cause all kinds of stuff. Let's see. Yeah, Shell is right. Copper toxicity can turn you blue, literally. Yeah, you would have to ingest a lot before that, before it would cause a problem. but I would just rather eat liver, to be honest with you. Before going carnivore, my boyfriend used to tease me because I ate with a Kleenex in my hand. I thought it was normal for my nose to run when I ate. Girl, I'm with you on that. Like, I would eat foods and my nose would run. When I went carnivore, it was like, and the other part of the title of this video is like, can the carnivore diet help with histamine issues? I think yes, but I think it's nuanced. I think that you have to be, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit here. I think you have to be very careful with the way that you do carnivore. You can't do aged meats. I would stay away for most people from any kind of hard cheeses. Dairy is a big culprit for a lot of people. I'm going to make the liver chips that Steph made. Just bought my slicer. Awesome. I'm actually doing the same right now. Let's see. Okay, this is a good question. How long after do you test blood glucose? So this is why I like having the continuous glucose monitor, because I can just kind of like eat something and wait. But it's, 20 minutes, 2 hours, like right, that postprandial time is when you're going to see you're reacting to a food. It's usually within that first 2 hours. Lizzie says, oxalate dumping can cause histamine release in a lot of people. Yes, absolutely, it can. Are you able to do bacon? We actually, now that I'm trying to switch things up for my daughter, we've stopped all bacon because it's an aged meat. So we buy pastured pork from White Oak Pastures. So I link below this video. We also buy the Iberico pork. I have my meat slicer, which I'm loving because I'm about to make those liver chips. And I slice up the Iberico pork belly into bacon. And I put that slicer under the link that's called Sarah's Favorite Carnivore Tools. It just has all my cooking tools and everything I use just to kind of help with this lifestyle. But I love my meat slicer because I can just slice up that pork belly and make bacon for my daughter and not have the bacon from the store that's got, it's aged. It's, even if it's uncured and sugar-free and nitrate-free, it can still cause a reaction. Isn't there histamines in dried meat, liver? There can be. So again, you have to test it out for yourself. So some things are going to cause a big reaction for some people. Some things are not. So if you are reacting to any kind of dehydrated meat, just switch back to eating liver just raw if you can, or cook it lightly, so you get the maximum nutrients out of it. Okay, so stabilizing your blood sugar and supporting your adrenals are going to be very, very important in that your body's ability to metabolize histamine. So I think a lot of people, and with my daughter, I saw this immediately, that her sleep and everything got better because we put her on keto, right? So the just stabilization of the blood sugar is huge for a lot of people, and supporting your adrenals. So don't overtax your adrenals. I think a lot of people just, they don't understand, like, you're stressing your body out through these crazy HIIT workouts, or you're going out jogging all the time, or you're staying up late, or you're on your phone all the time. You're taxing your adrenals. Your adrenals are going to steal from your sex hormones, which will make you gain weight and not feel well. This is a good question. How often per week do you eat liver? I love it too, but I read that it can easily overdose on vitamin A on it. Now, okay, so Steph always says this, Stephanie Keto Person, she's a good friend of mine. She coaches me. She's helped me kind of like held my hand through my transition into like high fat carnivore, healing my adrenals, healing my hormones. And she's the reason why my daughter went keto. And now we're working on the histamine stuff and the food stuff for my daughters because of Stephanie. And Stephanie says it's okay to eat liver, an ounce, 2 ounces every day. And that she says this, the only vitamin A toxicity we've ever seen from liver is eating polar bear liver. Now, this is what she says. You can go look it up and verify it for yourself. But that is what she says about it. And I believe her, and I've had zero problems eating 1 to 2 ounces of liver per day. I feel a lot better. It actually helps me with my electrolyte balance. So many other things, just have my liver nice and supported. How do you cook your pork belly? Oven 400. Yeah, when I make it into slices of bacon, I slice it up, put it in there like regular bacon in the oven on 400 on some parchment paper. And then sometimes the pork belly that I don't chop into, or that I don't slice, the kind of like the ends that didn't go in the slicer, I'll chop it up, put it in the air fryer for 10 minutes, and put some Redmond salt on it, and it is absolutely delicious. What is your morning glucose? My morning glucose is typically right now, it depends on the time of month. So this is another thing I want to talk about with histamines, which is really interesting. But typically for about 3 weeks out of the month, other than my ovulation day, my morning glucose is high 70s, very low 80s, which is great. This is where you want to be if you're in ketosis. Your blood glucose is very important for keeping your body in ketosis, being keto adapted. The week before my cycle and during ovulation, I notice that my morning glucose numbers are a bit higher, but that is normal. Now with histamines also, you're going to be more sensitive to histamines during ovulation and also the week before your cycle because your DAO levels are going to go down. Let's see. Okay, yeah, so I feel validated. If Dr. Barry says it, it must be true, y'all. No, I love Dr. Barry. He's amazing. So, yes, and that pork belly sounds good. We have pork belly like every day here. It's so, so, so good. Okay, so the other things we're doing to support the histamines for my daughter, and I'm doing it too, which has been huge. It's 26 minutes in here. I wish I had mentioned this a little bit earlier. So those of you on the replay, I'm sorry for jumping around so much. Usually people don't mind, but I do occasionally get people who get really pissed off watching the replay. And I'm like, just don't watch my live stream replay. If you don't like it, just don't watch it. So we have been taking also the ancestral supplements, which I listed below this video, thymus and kidney. Now I eat thymus, and I also have talked about this a lot. I cook thymus. I'm at some point going to do videos showing you guys meal prep for a day for my daughter and myself. I just haven't gotten my act together enough to do that, but I do want to do that to show you guys our supplements and what we eat in a day and how I prepare all the food. But the taking for her, she takes 2 capsules of each with each meal. So she'll do, she does kidney, liver, and thymus. So 2 of each at breakfast, 2 of each at lunch, 2 of each at dinner. So with each meal. For me, I do, I don't do the liver supplement because I eat liver, but I'll do 2 kidney, 2 thymus, or if I'm eating thymus that day, I don't take the supplement, but I'll do 2 of each of the kidney because I don't eat kidney. And I know some of you guys have great kidney recipes. Maybe I will eventually try them, but I do 2 of each meal. Now with my daughter, once I put her on those supplements, all of those are going to increase your DAO production in small intestine, which will help your body to handle those histamines. So once I did that with her, it took about a week and she started sleeping through the night. Her biggest problem was headaches. So she has a letter board to communicate. She's non-speaking autistic, but she's brilliant and she can communicate through spelling. And she would just tell us, my head hurts, my head hurts, my head hurts. She had a chronic headache all of the time. And so consequently, we'd give her Motrin to help with the headache, which is going to make the histamine issue worse. Then she get the ear infection, give the antibiotics, which makes so it was like this cascading nightmare. So we switched her to keto in March, and I haven't ever, since she's been keto, she has not complained of a headache even one time, which is amazing. And we were still getting sleep issues with her waking up in the night, which was horrendous. And so Stephanie was like, you got to start her on those supplements, the ancestral supplements. Now, a lot of you guys are probably going to want to keep those. Steph says in the refrigerator. I think also the freezer is a good place for them because they're not going to grow any mold on them. Sometimes mold can grow on stuff in the refrigerator. So freezer is a good place to keep those. But after a week of having her on that supplement regimen, she's been sleeping through the night. We're now on day, I don't know, 11 or 12, knock on some glass here. And she's been sleeping through the night, which is amazing for us because she's just had so many years of just not sleeping through the night. Let me look at some of these. How many ounces of meat do you eat in a day total? It's different for me every single day. I would say probably between 8 to 10 ounces a day, sometimes more, sometimes less. I eat a lot of fat though. Can eating only ground meats, beef, lamb, bison, etc.? Yes, it absolutely can. In different people, I've heard people say that they have to have their meat freshly slaughtered. It's got to be super, super fresh. This is the other reason why I buy from Oak Pastures because they freeze it right away. It's super fresh. It's right from the farm. I've been there. I've never had a histamine reaction from any of their meats. I tend to stay away from the ground meats for my family and for myself. Just because, again, they can cause a histamine reaction. The other thing that can cause histamine, I did this just a week ago, is putting something, in the fridge and having it the next day. I made this amazing, delicious shredded pork in the Instant Pot, had it that day, did great, had some the next day, and literally was on the couch. My whole body started itching. Like, it was crazy. I just had all of this itching. This is so cute. Can I come live with you for a month or two? Sure, come on over. Debbie wants to move in too. Awesome. And a meal prep video. Yeah, I'm going to do it, you guys. I will. I've been like, it's just such a weird situation. I've always got people in my house. Before everything went belly up, I had lots of alone time in the house so I could do videos and like whatever. And now it's like, there's always somebody here. So it can be, difficult. I've been breaking meals up, eating more often in smaller amounts. This has helped a ton with how I'm feeling. Been feeling so much better on a high-fat carnivore. Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Let's see. Yes, and this is right, Shell. Laura, you have to figure that out for you. Sarah's body is different from yours. Yeah, and this is the other confusing thing about food reactions, about histamines, about food intolerances and all that stuff, is that we're all so individual. And, a lot of people can so if you have gut issues are a hallmark of histamine issues. So you could have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. You could have SIBO, and that could be causing your histamine issues. And sometimes you can just go carnivore and get rid of your SIBO, get rid of those, because you're not feeding that bacteria with sugars and things that cause it to grow and flourish. But some people go carnivore and their histamine issues can get worse if they're eating a lot of leftover meat, if they're drinking a lot of bone broth. We don't talk about this enough in carnivore. I've tried to bring it out more. Stephanie talks about it. She's the one who introduced me to this. Drinking meat broth instead of bone broth. I have a whole video about meat broth. So, don't drink bone broth if you have histamine issues. That can make it absolutely worse. This is it. Yeah. How do you make the meat broth histamine friendly? Do you freeze it after making it? Yes, I do. I have a whole video about it. I even put below that video the silicone molds that I pour the broth into, keep it in my freezer as soon as I make it. Do you eat chicken raw or beef? I don't really. I know some people that do, but I don't. Did you ever encounter chronic stuffy nose on carnivore? I heard the carb addiction doc say that upping your salt intake can make the flu symptoms go away, but I'm cautious due to the old salt is bad. No, I mean, I think electrolytes are very important on carnivore, and that is not emphasized enough, that people need to make sure their electrolytes are in check. It's very important that we don't get dehydrated. But the chronic stuffy nose is probably not from being carnivore or the keto flu. It's probably a food reaction. So if you're eating a lot of ground beef, or you're keeping meat in the refrigerator, or you're drinking bone broth, or you're doing eggs, if you may be reacting to the egg whites. You may be reacting to butter. You may be reacting to cheese if you're eating cheese, if you're having dairy. There's so many things. So people saying, I'm going to go carnivore to cure my histamine reaction. Okay, it may not be like that magic bullet that you want it to be. For me, it hasn't been. It's been a lot more nuanced. I hope that helps. I just have to highlight this one. I thank you. You look 10 years younger. Like, thank you. Appreciate it. Yes, it is not a one size fits all type of thing. That's why so many fad diets fail. All those companies know it. Yes, I agree. I totally agree. It's not a one size fits all. And that's another thing I'm trying to do on this YouTube channel and on my Instagram, is just offer a different perspective, because there's a lot of people that just, throw out these blanket statements. And I think it's dangerous for people, especially if you do have like a thyroid issue or an adrenal insufficiency, which a lot of people have adrenal insufficiency. And I'm one of those. My adrenals are very, very sensitive. And so I have to stick into that therapeutic level of ketosis. I have to watch my electrolytes, and I have to mind all of these things like doing the organ meats. You know, people are like, I've been carnivore X amount of years. I don't eat organ meats. I don't think you need them. This is why I think some people do need the organ meats, and they are essential because, you know, what if you have the MTHFR mutation? Your body's a poor methylator. You need the zinc and the copper and the vitamin C, and you need those nutrients in order for your body to properly methylate out toxins, whether it be from the environment or from what you're eating. So I'm starting to, you know, I hate and I don't want to be one of those people that are like, no, only this way. Like, I don't want to be dogmatic ever. Like, I just never want to be dogmatic or act like I know everything or I've got it all figured out. I'm just constantly speaking from the lens of experience and kind of like what we've been through, you know? So let's see. Is pork belly high histamine? No. It depends on the source, and if you're getting it fresh. So a lot of people do react to pork. That's why I only buy our pork belly from White Oak Pastures. I get the pastured pork belly from them. I also buy the Iberico pork belly because I love the fat. I eat Iberico pork fat. That is like, and Steph was just saying this, like pork fat is like pizza, ice cream. Like people are like, how do you go without those foods? Like to eat, if you eat the Iberico pork fat, oh my gosh, you don't need any of those other foods, the ice cream and all of that. Like you just don't need it. Let's see. Thank you, Vic. Can histamine intolerance make your feet hurt? That's not a symptom I've seen, but I wouldn't necessarily rule it out. I would look more, you know, maybe at electrolytes. It could be an electrolyte imbalance also, not enough magnesium. But again, I don't really know. I would work with someone. Steph is a good person to work with. I know Nutrition with Judy is reputable. You could talk with her, but that's something I would look into. I wouldn't just ignore it. Do you count your liver intake towards your protein macros? Absolutely, yes, I do. Is it true there are histamines in the muscle part of the meat, but there's no histamine in the fat? That I'm not completely sure of, but it would make sense because I never have any histamine reaction with fat, and I can eat the same kind of fat all the time. I don't have to rotate it out the way I do have to rotate out my meats. I do different cuts of meat. You have to be careful with seafood because the seafood can really accumulate histamines quickly. So it has to be super, super fresh. Let's see. I use Carb Manager and the liver is high in protein. Yeah, it is. But for me, it's worth it. 100% worth it. I have been trying to source thymus. I can get kidney. I've heard it tastes funny, but I have no sense of taste or smell. I was hoping carnivore would heal that. You know, it may. It's a long journey to heal. You know, there's no timeline on healing, and there's so much at play. I think that, you know, we have to really get a base, you know, of healing here. We got to stabilize the blood sugar, which for a lot of people, standard carnivore eating a ton of meat isn't necessarily going to do because all that protein, for some people, it did for me, is going to cause your insulin to be high. Not high, but it's going to spike it. You know, it's not like high, like as if I'm eating carbs, but it kept me out of that ketosis metabolism and kept putting me into a glucose metabolism. So my body just wasn't able to heal because it was constantly trying to figure out what the hell was going on. So I had to go towards that high fat macros and the lower protein. Thymus, you can get it at White Oak Pastures. It's called sweetbreads. If they're out, put in your email. They'll send you a notification of when it's going to be back on. There are some other places online that you can get sweetbreads or thymus. A lot of farmers will have them. Also, you can go to www.eatwild.com. And a lot of times they just throw the thymus away. So just ask for it. Let's see. Yes, I've never had the Iberico pork fat. I will order things. Yeah, it's like literally just so delicious. What are your fat resources besides fatty cups when you don't eat butter, dairy? Do you eat lard? I eat the pastured pork fat. I eat the Iberico pork fat. I eat beef fat from grass-fed. You can buy like 2.5 pounds of raw beef fat from White Oak Pastures. Beef suet, you can get raw beef suet from US Wellness. So those are my favorite fat sources because I don't eat dairy. I don't eat butter right now. For me, it causes histamine reactions. It causes, first of all, it gives me a big headache, and then it also raises my blood glucose. Do you have the pork fat link somewhere, please? Yeah, just go under the information section of this video. There's a link to White Oak Pastures. And once you get there, do a search for Iberico pork belly, or you could do just pork belly. Both of the Iberico is more expensive. It's like 3 times more expensive, but it's so freaking good. And there's way more fat on that Iberico pork belly, and it's super delicious, high quality. Or you can just get regular pork belly. If they're out, type in your email and they will email you. They restock a lot. So you're like, oh my gosh, they don't have it. They'll restock really quickly. I just ordered like 10 pounds of thymus from them that I stocked my freezer with it. Is goat milk cheese okay for some people? Yeah, but you got to test it out yourself. I don't do well with goat milk cheese at all. I just haven't, it just isn't something that my body likes, and I have a poor reaction to it. And this is, when you get an email from White Oak for thymus, order immediately, sell it. Yeah, that's exactly what I did. I got the email a couple weeks ago, and then I literally ordered 10 pounds and was like, I probably was one that sold them out. Oops, I meant to highlight this one. How do you cook your thymus? I cook it in the air fryer typically. I'm going to get the food prep video for you guys. I promise. I'm going to try to do that this week. But I cook it in the air fryer for like 10 minutes on 390. You can also chop it up and deep fry it. You can saute it in the pan. I mean, in a stainless steel or cast iron. It's really, really easy. This is a good one. You can get any organ you want at local Asian markets. In Atlanta, you can get the Nam De Moon. Everyone always talks about Nam De Moon. I've never been there before. But yeah, that's another great source is Asian markets. A lot of time Asian markets will have salmon roe also, which if you have histamine, be careful with salmon roe. What does thymus taste like? I don't know. It's kind of like a chicken-y taste. Some of you guys can weigh in on this if you want to. But for me, it's kind of like a chicken-y taste. I really enjoy it. All right, let me look through some of my notes here. While I'm looking to see if you guys are going to pop any more questions in the chat. Let me see if because I always write down a bunch of stuff that I want to cover in my live stream. Just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, so here's some other stuff that, here's one other thing that a lot of people aren't going to like about histamines. Alcohol is a big, big culprit for a lot of people. That can cause a major histamine reaction. And anytime I used to drink, I don't drink anymore. It's not for me. Y'all can have a drink for me, but I don't drink. I'm in recovery from alcohol. But I would always get like red all over. So my cheeks would always flush anytime that I drank. And that happens to a lot of people. So I was definitely having a major histamine reaction to alcohol. It's going to break down your gut lining. The other thing that happened to me, sorry, there's a bug in my face, that I didn't know this was a problem. Oh, sorry, this bug will not leave me alone. Welcome to my live stream where I fight off gnats in my office. So I didn't know that this was a sign of a weak gut wall or a problem with my gut. Because people go on Carnivore, they're like, okay, I'm going to go carnivore and I'm never going to get sick and I'm going to heal and it's going to be amazing. I thought that, but then it was about October of last year. I got really, really sick. I was so mad. I was in bed for 2 weeks because when you get sick, a lot of the times you have poor gut health. Your gut wall is not sealed. You don't have enough stomach acid. Stomach acid actually helps the body fight off infection. So that, and I was like October, I was 10 months into carnivore. I was so mad. And then I actually got sick again just about a month later and was on my couch for 3 weeks. And it wasn't the flu. I don't know what it was. I'm not even going to say, but like I was sick for 3 weeks. And that was like my last straw. I was just like, I got to change something. That's when I met Stephanie and she was like, this is poor gut health. It's histamines. It's like, your gut wall is not sealed. We got to work on that. So I had to go therapeutic level ketosis, the high fats, lower proteins, manage electrolytes, and then look at the histamines, look at all the stuff that was causing me histamine reaction. So never eating leftover meat, always eating fresh. I had to really be careful with the way that I did things. Let's see some of these comments. Do you cook your Iberico pork fat in air fryer? Yeah, I do, but I usually eat it. My favorite way to eat it is raw out of the freezer, which is not going to be for everybody, but That's the way I like to eat it. This is okay. Thymus tastes like baby chicken legs, soft and tender. I agree. It is so, so delicious. What are your thoughts on caffeine? I don't drink it because it stresses out my adrenals, and you really want your adrenals to be healthy, because that's going to work too. What people don't really understand is how important adrenal glands and stable blood sugar are, and working together to give your body overall hormonal health, give your body overall health. So people are drinking, and this happens a lot on carnivore and happens a lot more on keto than carnivore. I think people will drink coffee all day to try to stave off hunger, and end up screwing up their adrenals and wondering why their blood sugar isn't stabilized, and wondering why they're not sleeping and having all these problems because they're drinking so much coffee. I've just recently stopped drinking coffee because coffee also has a lot of mold in it and toxins, which will really make those histamine issues worse. How long does it take going carnivore with low histamine foods and supplementing for these histamine issues to resolve in general? That's a good question. I would say, so for my daughter, she had already been keto for about a month before we started adding the supplements in. So, oh my gosh, this bug will not go away. I'm a yoga teacher, so I'm supposed to catch it in a cup and throw it outside. No joking. That's what my yoga teacher friends do with roaches. They put them in cups and put them in the wild. Sorry. Moment there. Squirrel. So for my daughter, she was on those supplements, the DAO supplements for the liver, the kidney, and the thymus for a week before we saw those histamine issues resolve. The biggest change for her is that she hasn't complained of ear pain or headache pain at all, and we're almost in June. Typically by this time, she's got a severe ear infection, and runny nose, not sleeping, and chronic headache. So that is, I think probably 4 weeks at least on the diet, and then at least a week went to add those supplements, the DAO enzyme in there. Let's see. Hey, Carnivore Yogi, I'm looking into getting a good cast iron pan to get away from Teflon, but I don't know which one to get. They say you should always season them with vegetables. So I don't season my cast iron with anything, and I have a cast iron that I use underneath. There's a link under the video called Sarah's Favorite Carnivore Tools. I just got off Amazon, so you can see the one that I got. I don't season it. I just put fat in it. I pour, again, my pork fat. I know I keep talking about it, but it's so, so, so good. This is a great question. Can you heal from a histamine intolerance, or do you have to stay low histamine forever? I think it's different for everyone, especially if you have the mast cell, which is kind of a genetic thing. So it tends to run in families. I wouldn't be surprised if I don't have the mast cell thing, but you can help your body to handle histamines better, to metabolize them better. So that is, something that it's individual. So for me, it's just something I kind of have to watch. I'm kind of newer to trying to heal my histamine issues, trying to even pay attention to them or even understand them. And it's just something I'm going to take day by day. This is an interesting question. I'm looking for beef belly bacon. Anyone know where to find it? White Oak doesn't have it. They don't. I don't know. I know my friend Laura Spath. You can find her on Instagram. She has a YouTube channel also, but she does a lot of beef belly bacon, and she just uses her local butcher. And then she actually went above her local butcher's head and found a meat warehouse that sells just directly to restaurants, and started buying directly from that warehouse. So it's going to be different everywhere. Do you think it's possible to have histamine problems with no allergy-like symptoms? I do, because it's going to present differently in people. So when I eat avocado, I get heart palpitations, which you wouldn't think that that's a histamine symptom. You're like, okay, why do I have heart palpitations? What's going on? For some people, they'll get vertigo, they'll get really dizzy. So it's not always going to show up as a runny nose. A headache is confusing. So many things can cause the headaches. But for a lot of people, if you eat something and you get a headache, I've heard a lot of doctors say, Dr. Becky Campbell, I linked her video underneath this video, is going to be a histamine issue. This is a good question. Can stuffy nose problems, swallowing, constant burping, trouble falling asleep be histamine symptoms? Absolutely. Because, so stuffy nose, absolutely. Problem swallowing. Now, Becky Campbell, Dr. Becky Campbell, I just put her, like I said, video underneath this video, a link to it. She was talking about this. Sometimes people have a problem swallowing their food. That is histamine. Constant burping, so low stomach acid is another symptom. Trouble falling asleep. A lot of people that have sleep issues, this is for my daughter, as soon as we started giving her those supplements, the kidney and the thymus from Ancestral Supplements, within a week of giving her those supplements, her sleep has been amazing. And it's just, yeah, I'm like, let's keep this up. It's just amazing. Another histamine reaction, excuse me, I'm looking down at my paper, can be diarrhea. Here's some more. I'm going to read some off. Red, itchy, or watery eyes, sneezing, shortness of breath, hives or red, raised, itchy skin, burning bumps. For me, I had eczema like crazy. Very itchy skin. If I go outside in the springtime, I will get really itchy skin here in Atlanta. Unexplained anxiety, I got that with avocados. Stomach cramps or pain, chronic constipation, nausea and vomiting, gas or bloating, unexplained exhaustion. When I was trying to reintroduce butter back into my diet, I would crash, like couldn't get off the couch. And once I took the butter out, it was fine. Let's see. How did you find Stephanie? I interviewed her, I actually watched Bart K's channel. I've interviewed Bart K on here. He's a nutritional scientist. I interviewed Bart K and kind of became friends with him. And I was on Bart K's channel also back in January. And I was tuning into one of Bart's live streams. He does a live stream every Saturday, I think. And Stephanie happened to be on there. And I was like, this girl knows her stuff. Like, this woman knows what's up. And so I reached out to her and asked her if she would come on my channel for an interview. So I interviewed her. And then after I interviewed her, I was like, I really like this woman and I want to get a consult with her. So I got a consult. And then after the consult, her and I just got to be really, really good friends. And we literally are like messaging each other every single day. Like, we're on WhatsApp constantly. Like, I talk to her several times a day. So she really has become a good friend of mine. Do you use essential oil diffusers, and what are your thoughts on cleaning supplies and such? Yes, I do. I have a doTERRA account. I could probably sell their stuff, but I don't even know how. It's how like inept I am with the whole doTERRA thing. But I use the doTERRA oils, diffuse them in my house. We use the peppermint to help with allergies. I use On Guard for my hands to help increase the protective oils on my hands. So I'm not one of these people that's constantly like washing my hands all the time. I don't really believe in that. I will do it, but then I will use On Guard on my hands because it has a lemon and citrus oils that help you to, help improve your ability to repel the harmful bacteria and pick up the good bacteria. I don't use regular typical cleaning supplies because those are hormone disruptors, endocrine disruptors. So I do make my own cleaning supplies. I will use those oils to help me do that. I haven't really talked in depth about it because, again, I'm like kind of just doing it. And I don't really sell their stuff. I just have an account. But I do think that those essential oils are good. So I'm going to stay on for like just a couple more minutes here because I have a 1:30 client, but let me look through this. So it says that this stuff is, okay, here's good. This is a good. I had SIBO, which caused histamine issues. I'm hoping thymus will help. Should I take the recommended daily dosage? I think so. And like I said, SIBO is a lot of times the culprit for these histamine problems. But yeah, I would take the recommended daily dosage. I would eat the thymus. So kidney and thymus are the two that are going to help you increase your DAO. And then liver is also going to support your liver, and it's going to provide you with vitamin C, the copper, zinc, and selenium, which are very important in helping support your liver, which is going to help your body to metabolize out the histamines. What are some low histamine foods that are 100% safe? I'm so lost. Yeah, it is very confusing. I think that if you're going to eat meat, if you're going to eat carnivore, it should be fresh from a reputable source. You don't want to eat cured meats. You don't want to eat lunch meats. You don't want to eat anything fermented, pickles, sauerkraut, kombucha. A lot of cheese is going to have more of that harmful bacteria. A lot of the dairy is. So those are some places you can kind of start. Avocado is high histamine, pineapple. You can Google search it. Absolutely. And you can just Google search low histamine foods. Egg yolks instead of egg whites. Trying to think. So spinach is high histamine. Just do a Google search. But if you're eating carnivore, you know, you can eat carnivore and do a low histamine diet. Absolutely. But you just want to rotate out your meats. You want to get a really nice high quality source, which is a pasture raised meat. I think is very important, from a source where it hasn't been sitting around forever. That's fresh, it's flash frozen, and it's you know, I think that's going to be your best bet. And lots of fat. Let's see. Yay! I'm so glad this was helpful, you guys. Any other questions? Let me just make sure. Okay, here's a list I printed out of low histamine foods. So yeah, again, carnivore, you can do your fresh meats, egg yolk. It says cooked egg yolk. I eat it raw sometimes. It doesn't seem to bother me, but again, you got to test it for yourself. Oh, here's a question. How do you safely defrost 5 pounds of beef suet or even 2 pounds lamb suet to bag up and smaller and freeze? Rehistamines freezing details help me the most. Thank you so much for super chat. So what I do when I get that 5 pound beef suet, I'll just put it in my fridge, usually for, you know, a day or so. I just chop it up into portions. I do probably like 6-ounce portions, and I just put it into a plastic bag and put it back in the freezer. So it's, for me, it doesn't cause a reaction. Fat is going to be a lot less likely to pick up bacteria that's going to cause you to have a histamine reaction. So I hope that helps. Let's see. Yeah, and same thing with the lamb suet. I'll defrost it a little bit. It doesn't have to be all the way defrosted in order to chop it. And then just pop it right back in the freezer. Oh, there's my dog again. She really hates UPS and FedEx and Amazon, like, tremendously. For me, increasing protein caused higher blood pressure and decreased kidney function. Did that happen for you too? It sure did. I was having kidney pain. My kidney markers were high. It was not good. So eating a lower protein amount helps. Please address how to handle excess uric acid on carnivore diet. Lower protein. I mean, I think for me, that's been key, is keeping my protein levels, you know, and they're not low. It's plenty of protein, but I don't really go above 70 grams of protein per day. I eat somewhere between like 50 and 70 per day, but I keep my fat up there really, really high, so I'm not starving, and my body is in ketosis, so it's muscle sparing, and I have plenty of energy. Let me see. All right, I got to jump off here pretty soon, but let me see if there's anything else. All right, y'all. Thank you so much. I hope that this was helpful. And, you know, I'm enjoying doing my live streams on Monday. So I usually come up with the topic over the weekend and then just go for it on Mondays. So I may do a live stream on Friday, but thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope this was helpful. Again, I'm not a doctor expert on any of this stuff, but, you know, hopefully it could help you guys if you're confused about this stuff. And make sure you check out the videos below this video in order to get opinions from a doctor, and hopefully that helps. All right, y'all, have a really, really awesome rest of your Monday. Happy Memorial Day for those of you watching the replay today, and I will talk to you later. Bye, y'all.